What's up, you guys? Welcome to episode 417 of the Established Run NBA podcast. I'm Mike Gallagher here with Saum Jafarinia to talk about the things we learned and didn't learn in the opening two nights of the NBA season. Saum, we're off and running. We've been grinding like crazy the last week plus the amount of time we to get these first runs of projections in. How you feeling? Are you ready for this grind on our hands?
I'm great. Yeah, it's so good to have basketball back. The grind, leading up to all of it was something, but nice to just be able to be here with you and recap. A really fun day of basketball, I thought.
Yeah, a lot going on. We had injuries. We had a lot of surprises. Shout out Oso Ighodaro. I didn't think he was going to play. So we're going to talk a little bit. We're not going to talk about Oso Ighodaro for the 10 things we learned. But yeah, just want to shout you out and the whole team. I mean, for those people who are on a props sub, you've seen us go 19-8, including 17. We had 25 bets on Wednesday, and the amount of work we put in leading up to Wednesday was a tribute to Sam making first runs on like Friday of last week. Me grinding the preseason notes, the whole team going through stuff, Think going through stuff. Just shout out to everyone and the amount of work we do to get these props out. We can't even like explain it. The amount of work that goes into it. So yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed to our prop sub, check it out. It's $59.99 a week. Definitely check out the FAQ. A lot of fun in there. Our Discord's really awesome, really helpful. So shout out to them. And then also our DFS packages. We've had, 100K winner already subbing to our stuff. So it could go well. Obviously, DFS is really tough nowadays. But yeah, you need projections. So check us out for our DFS package. Really, it's awesome. Go to the subscribe page. Go to establishedrun.com. You'll see the subscribe tab. Go there and figure out what's best for you. And again, if you want to do the props page, please read that FAQ. It is not easy to get bets because our clientele, our subscribers are really sharp. All right, let's get into it. Sam, the thing we learned the most last night was something that no one knew, and it's an injury. It's Dejounte Murray. He's going to be out for an extended period of time. Broke his hand. Not great. Played great. The stats weren't great, but he had like 15, 18 potentials. Drove a ton. Looked quite comfortable against the Bulls defense, which I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, with Dejounte out, I'll hand it to you first. We do have Trey Murphy still out for probably at least a couple weeks, starting to jog. I would say probably 3 weeks on him. So Zion had an illness. He'll be back pretty soon. But yeah, with Dejounte down, what are we looking at for this Pelicans team?
I mean, yeah, we kept talking in the offseason how this is probably one of the most like front loaded teams in the West, right? Where we feel
Mm-hmm.
really good about that top, but it falls off fast to me. And so already, like you said, Murphy's still out. We don't have him. Zion missed last game, and then to have this on top of all of it, sets up a really difficult path for the Pelicans in the short term. So I think for now they just got to hope Zion can recover from this illness soon and get back, because right now the way things are going, especially if Zion's going to be out, it's going to be real ugly from a depth perspective. So really unfortunate for the Pels after a nice opening night win for them.
Yeah, it was Brandon Ingram was really good. There was a lot of talk from
Mhm.
Willie Green after the game saying they really want to fine tune his shooting to threes and layups. He took a ton of mid rangers yesterday, so he didn't kind of listen to that. Actually, David Griffin, go back 3 months ago, he was talking about how they were going to alter Brandon Ingram's offense because of Dejounte. Hey, guess what, Brandon Ingram? Hey, do whatever you want now because they're going to need that primary playmaking. Obviously, that primary role, which was fantastic from him last night, will get a little bit smaller with Zion coming in. But Zion, we saw a lot of handling from him in the preseason, so it's going to be like a lot of big Zion dime games, like against the right team. Long shot Zion triple double, long shot Zion overtimes. I think that's going to be a big part of their offense since it was such a big staple in the preseason. There, CJ McCollum will start to handle, really flying away from deep. That was kind of a trend. We'll see him be a little bit more on ball now too. Yeah. Anything else you want to add for the high end guys before we talk about the role players? One specifically was really good.
I'll just say on that BI point, I mean, he was somebody that in the best ball, season, I was shying away from some just because I thought
Hmm.
there was just so much, high end usage and everything around. But now, I mean, yeah, they're going to really need all that playmaking that he himself really loves to do and thinks he's great at. So yeah, it's blast off for BI, and unfortunate for me as I had a little bit of a fade on him during best ball season.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram had 48 front court touches. I think that was top five last night. So it was just get the ball to him. He actually, I think he's second in post ups. As I was looking at the stats, and that was by design. They said that they were trying to get him the ball in the post to like almost push him to like shoot rim shots more. That was pretty fun, pretty comment from Willie Green there. So yeah, all those guys will pick up the pieces. So let's talk down the roster here. There were two players, one player specifically, who really stepped up. Now is Yves Missi. Awesome game. Shout out Levitan with the double awesomes. He goes 12-7, 3 blocks. Willie Green said after the game, said they told him no more layups and just start blocking everything regardless. So yeah, really active. Adds that verticality component to their offense. It could be pretty valuable. Not a lot of that, especially with Zion out there. So him. And the other guy who really stepped up was Jordan Hawkins. Really running down the floor. Brandon Ingram hit him with a sick push the pace, hit him for an open three. It was great. So Hawkins and Yves Missi, who's a pickup now for you season long guys out there. I think that this injury, Dejounte, is going to skew their whole starting lineup to play a lot bigger. Obviously, we saw Missi not play a lot in the preseason, but he did play in that game Zion was out. So I think that this 23 minutes was a little bit of a fluke. And it still is going to hunt on the high end. I kind of reading between the lines on Willie Green. It sounded like they wanted to play him like 15-16, but he was playing so well that they pushed him up. So definitely kind of a 14 team, 16 team, maybe 12 team deep pickup there. Herb was got hurt, but he's going to be okay. He returned. I guess the question is, does Yves Missi just take over as a starter? Like Daniel Tice certainly not on solid footing. How do you feel about Missi being kind of C1 now?
I mean, the past there, right? Only really competition there is Daniel Tice, and he kind of just is what he is, right? Good veteran presence, I guess, is the best thing I can say about him. But yeah, and I mean, this is exactly what the Pelicans wanted, right? This is like a calling card for them that they just need so bad, is just give them some front court depth. So really encouraging start from him. Like you said, maybe they got pushed up more than they wanted, but still, I mean, you got to be really pumped if you're the Pelicans, because especially now with these injuries piling up, you need these secondary guys like you're saying, Hawkins too, to step up and show what they can do.
Yeah, Javonte Green gave him good minutes, had 4 steals, pretty good ball pressure, especially in the second half. That was a big thing. That had going. Zach LaVine was cooking. What started 5 of 5 from 3, and then they really applied pressure, partly from her, partly from Javonte Green. Revenge game there. But should note, as nice as this 123 points was, we didn't learn this. The Bulls play fast as hell. They played 8.6 seconds per possession off a D rebound. They were insanely fast. We talked about this all preseason. They were first in preseason pace. So pretty much a dream matchup. Don't expect these kinds of lines from Missi. We're expecting the Bulls from defense to be pretty bad. So yeah, Missi's not going to be every night doing this, but a guy that, again, from guys who were 14th round or later, not on the 10 team radar. Definitely one of the biggest winners for me. Anything else Pelicans wise that you learned here?
No, I think it broke it down pretty well.
Cool. Let's go to the number one thing you learned, which is a thing I didn't learn because I talked about this for the whole last week of the preseason. It's Steve Kerr is going to drive us absolutely bananas. I will say, I was on a level 7 of Steve Kerr driving us crazy. It's at a level 12 for that. So what did we learn about Steve Kerr and his rotations yesterday?
I mean, almost disappointed in myself for having to learn this. As I talk every throughout the offseason, he's a madman. He doesn't even know what the rotation could be to game. But we get the Moody extension right before first game, and I go, oh, maybe we could finally get this 10-man that we wanted. Nope. First sub of the game, here comes GP2, right back to it of just. And then after the game, he comes out, doubles down on this. So I should have just assumed. He's shown us who he's been this the last 3 years. We just saw in the Olympics, he goes back and forth with Tatum, then brings him in for the finals. So this is just what Steve Kerr is, and unfortunately I fell for it. I thought maybe we could get a solidified rotation, but no, looks like we're going to get the exact opposite of that. And game to game, we're going to see what he decides with this 12-man. But one encouraging thing I will say, though, is Jonathan Kuminga starting, which had been not a big. I mean, we were leaning that way, but it was finally nice to just actually see it for once, and he's not playing that. So, but as I've been explaining with all this, maybe the starting lineup changes again next game. We can never know with Steve Kerr.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have probably seen the quotes in writing, but if you have the time, I would go the tweets that you see from Underdog, from the Warriors beats. They don't even do it justice. He's out of his way excited about this. He's like, well, yeah, we're gonna do it. Everyone's been he's pumped to run a 12-man rotation. He says they're gonna run it every night for now, and night to night, guys are gonna be upset with not having large enough roles because a guy could be hot and they'll could get their rotation cut short. This is and this is why I was jamming Melton and taking Buddy Hield, and Buddy Hield was great. We'll talk about him in a second, but it's gonna be so inconsistent. This was against the Blazers. Blazers just got absolutely roasted. Gave up 58 rim points, and Kuminga couldn't do anything. Sad. But
Sad.
yeah, so I don't know. Like I was jamming Kaminga like a month ago, and I really dialed it back. And I feel really strongly that like the Warriors are going to be so annoying. But maybe on the days they do trim it down, or maybe when there are an injury or two, it's worth noting they played really fast. They had the fastest offensive possession per offensive possessions for seconds. So that was like they were just running partly because Portland turned it over so many times. But yeah, their offense is going to be pretty good. They look awesome. That's the other thing. I talked about that too. I
Yeah.
was like a big Warriors. I
Mhm.
got Warriors overs. I feel really good. It was the Blazers, but like, man, they look really in control. The 3-point volume was there. Steve Kerr doubled down again after the post in his post game presser, saying that we want Wiggins to shoot 6 or 7 threes. So I think that's legit. Anything else player wise that you learned on the Warriors?
Yeah, again, we like all these pieces of there's just so many
Mm-hmm.
guys here. And yeah, I mean on the days trim it out, like there is a lot of fantasy goodness here to take. And there's a lot of guys I
Mm-hmm.
want to like, but the minutes I think are just gonna be such a question. So we'll see. I mean, as thing goes, will he completely stick with his 12 man all year? I'm still skeptical, but he keeps showing us he's willing to do this, and I just keep saying maybe not, but we'll see. But it seems at least for the near future, we're gonna be it's gonna be a headache from a minutes projection standpoint.
Yeah, we'll see how the lines adjust. Honestly, the bet we fired off 25 props yesterday, and the one I liked the best was our Brandon Podzimski under, because like I said, I felt very confident. I didn't think they were going to go 12, but I just felt like there was a really clear path to Pods, not getting 27, 20. He actually got garbage time. He would have been like under 20 if not for garbage time there. All right, so let's move on to my number two thing that I learned. It is AD might be the MVP. His impact was insane. The post touches, we didn't learn that his role was going to be big. JJ Redick told us since his opening presser that they're going to be aggressive. You saw him in the in-game interview saying, "Oh yeah, we want AD to be aggressive." Took it to Gobert. Mentioned on the content that Gobert, as great as he is as a defender, he's not a good post defender. I think Redick knew that. That's going to be a huge staple. LeBron didn't have the same pop he did late in the game, but this is AD's team now, man. He's going to have so many big games like this one. The offense is suited around him. They got their kind of early 3-point volume, and then they really attacked the Wolves defense interior, which is the best interior defense in the NBA last year, which we could talk about as an aside, but just a quick aside. I thought the Wolves are going to miss Cat like in a big way. Randall was horrible,
Mhm.
which we didn't learn that. We kind of knew that Randall was going to struggle. I mentioned his struggle defensively was going to be a problem. So there was that. We also learned that there was a tweak to the rotation. I talked a lot about this in the preseason. That I thought D'Lo was going to stagger away from LeBron. They didn't do that. They flipped that. They ran Austin Reeves in the lawn LeBron's. So we'll see if that was like a Bronny thing. I don't think it was, because there were like a couple sub iterations, but something to watch there. But yeah, I'm buying this AD thing, and thinking I said it all along, and you did too. I mean, if AD plays 75 games again, like you're printing, he does have 8 games in the DK final too. So I assume you agree. You're a Lakers guy. Do you think AD? I mean, I think someone. I think Austin has a 100-1 AD MVP ticket. That sounds awesome to me.
Yeah, shout out my guy AD, my guy 2 years in a row now, the second year in a row. I mean, just mega smash that first game. Just so everything you
Mhm.
wanted to see out of him, we got to see. And I mean, just huge shout out to him. And another thing we had been talking about too all this offseason, this Lakers front court depth is just like really gross. And I mean, they've got some injuries dealing with now, especially with Vanderbilt down, that are hurting them more. So like these mega 80 minutes games where he smash like this are much needed for the Lakers. And it's just, yeah, without a question, AD's team now. Hopefully, he can just stay healthy. I think that's really the one thing we're talking about. We saw really exceptional health from him last season, and if we can see
Mhm.
it again, I mean, he's poised for a mega year. And like you're saying, MVP is certainly in the range of outcomes.
Yeah, I think the post touches are going to be huge. The passing can be really good. So, yeah, absolutely in on AD this year. All right, what was the second thing that you learned from this? Is on we're going back to when we actually got another Tuesday one, but here's another Wednesday thing we learned.
All the basketball, right? But yeah, the second thing I just want to put was James Harden's role is going
Yeah.
to be, I mean, truly outrageous. This was probably one of the bigger stands we had entire offseason from our projection
Hmm.
standpoint, is being really ahead of market on Harden. And I mean, you couldn't have
Hmm.
asked for a better start, right? He comes out
Hmm.
40% usage rate, 15 potential assists, grabs 12 rebounds on top of all of that. And like, I think this is legit. I think like this is the role they
Hmm.
need out of him. Watching that game, I mean, this offense is just almost lost when he's off the court, and when he's on, it's just give it to him. And we really keep emphasizing, or we kept emphasizing, like it is one thing just losing all those big rates guys with PG, Westbrook, and Kawhi until he
Mhm.
comes back, which doesn't seem anytime soon. But like all these other low rates guys that they brought in, it just sets up this massive offensive role for James Harden. So yeah, as long as he stays healthy, I mean, he's going to be shouldering one of the bigger offensive workloads in the entire league.
Yeah, he was driving it drop. He was driving it when they were switching. He was driving it everything. He had 33 drives last night. Yes, overtime, but 33. I mean, you don't see 33s very often in even like triple overtime games. I think SGA's done it a few times when I've scrolled through. But yeah, you had that. You had the 15 potentials. You had the usage rate as you mentioned. I mean, it's 9.8 minutes of touch time again,
Yeah, it's
overtime
just
aided, but like he has one, and we knew this. We knew this the whole time
Mhm.
that he was going to have one of the biggest roles in the NBA. There's no second. Like Norm was kind of meh, and we'll see if he gets better. But they had like no shooting. They only had 12 catch and shoot shots last night. It was just like Harden all day, every day, and we'll see how teams scheme up against that. I think teams may try to blitz him. And the other thing we learned is like they're so one dimensional, man. This is a big problem for
Mhm.
like sharp coaches. If you could kind of cut off the head of the snake and Harden and like not let him get downhill like that, the Suns like almost gave this away. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, like I feel really good about having I think I'm 26% Harden for like a second, third round player. That high is quite bold there. Anything else? And should mention, Zoo's legit. Like
Yeah,
we
that's
knew Zoo was
mhm.
going to be quite good. The post touches were there. And like Norm was kind of poor, but not worried about it. Any other like secondary clippers you want to hit?
Yeah, I'll just go on that Zubac point too. I mean, at the beginning it was a little rough start. He was in some foul
Mhm.
trouble. Ended up fouling out later too in that game. But man, I mean, just kind of on that Harden point too. There's just not a lot of offensive
Mhm.
options here. And Zoo is one of the sides Harden that could kind of absorb that lost usage from last season. So I think kind of like we were really saying all off season, these main Clippers guys who can show some offense are they're poised for really big years.
Yeah, and then Norm 40 minutes with overtime. KPJ not getting overlap. We were pretty much on that. Pay
Yeah.
attention in the preseason. We got a huge leg up early, and hopefully that continues there. Okay, next thing we learned here. I changed my sheet. We are talking Dame. Is Dame back? He goes up against the terrible, banged up Sixers and absolutely smashes. Shot making was I didn't watch this whole game. I just watched the Dame shots in a row. My God, man, this is like Dame's like there aren't many people who could just make bad shots like Dame can, like Steph can. There aren't many, and that was what he was doing. When Dame gets going, he can absolutely cook. Goes for 30 and 38, big minutes again. Doc did not mess around, so he was great. The whole big, there's a lot of talk about him being in the news last offseason for the trades, Miami Heat, yada yada, and he's going to come back kind of reinvigorated and popping off. He looked fantastic. So I'm kind of buying that, and I'm kind of buying the Bucks. Huge shout out, Brick Lopez. Incredible rim defense. Passed the ball really well around to hit some shooters too. He played great. Giannis is going to Giannis. Taurean Prince is really good. Had a couple nice passes. And Doc Rivers, we make fun of his quotes. He had a fun quote after the game saying, there's like a game that the Bucks are playing to like point out open passes. And like the teams on the bench are like, hey, pass over there. It's pretty funny to see that. So Portis was great. We know Chris Middleton's going to miss time, and as Doc said, as long as they play the right way, they're not going to miss Middleton. So yeah, it wasn't a playoff game, but they played like it was last night with their performance there. Anything else you want to note on what we learned on the Bucks yesterday?
Yeah, shout out to Dame, right? And this has been a lot of talk all season. He said 2 years with the trade and everything. It just, wasn't, and all the off court stuff he was going through. He didn't get his best performance in. And boy, we saw it. I mean, it just literally looked like classic Dame just coming down the court. And Sixers almost felt helpless, just trying to stop him. So, really awesome performance by him. For the Bucks as a whole, I'm still on the more
Mm-hmm.
skeptical side, I would say, but you can't argue with what we saw, right? And Prince, especially, right? Gets in that starting
Mm-hmm.
lineup, shoots 6 of 7, 4 threes. Like, he played really well, and that's exactly what they need while they're dealing with this Middleton injury. So, like I said, I'm still a little skeptical, but I mean, you can't say you're not encouraged by that performance. So we'll see how they can build off of this going forward.
Yeah, and we talked about that Gary Trent Jr. I think Nick and I ranked it second for the best one, and he was good, man. Like defensive
Hmm.
pressure, I thought he played really well. Found open, didn't have a big stat line, but that's what they don't need. They don't need shots, but he guarded. He made life pretty hard on Tyrese Maxey, in my opinion, overall. So yeah, excited about those guys. All right, what do we got next from you on things that we learned?
Well, sticking with that same game that I was going on from Harden, it's the Suns may actually be okay in the
Mm-hmm.
clutch this year and not
Mm-hmm.
blowing through the fourth quarter. I mean, last game against the Clippers yesterday is looking like classic Suns, right? They look great first half, they're crushing, and then here come the Clippers
Mm-hmm.
second half, right? And
Mm-hmm.
KD is doing these ISOs, and Chris Dunn's just making them work more
Yeah.
than he should. But then shout out KD, he makes a really incredible shot at the end to tie. It goes into overtime, and the Suns don't Suns, and they actually win a close game. So this
Yeah.
was really the theme of them last season, is just collapsing at the end of games. And I'm sure for them, it's especially encouraging to start off the season with a close win like that. So we'll see if this is something that can stick for them. But if they can solve these late game struggles, I mean, I know you were particularly high on them coming into the year. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot to be excited for the Suns.
It was the Clippers, and we just talked about how they could be quite bad.
Mm-hmm.
But as you mentioned, they were dead last in
Yeah, yeah.
fourth quarter net rating, and they were +7 in the clutch. That's a big number. Over
Mm-hmm.
8 minutes, that was really tight. So yeah, I feel pretty good about the Suns. I thought I spent probably my biggest talking point was Bradley Beal and how Mike Budenholzer was
Mm-hmm.
going to really buoy up his performance, and I thought he did. I thought Beal looked really good. We saw the 3-point volume early. I think they had like 23 first half threes, so that volume was there. It did go away as they did, as you mentioned. They slipped into it a little bit, but they
Mm-hmm.
came out on the other end with the win, as you mentioned, with some clutch play. Booker fouled out. Yeah, I thought Royce O'Neal gave him pretty good minutes. Grayson Allen hit a pretty big shot as well. So yeah, pretty good team effort. Tyus Jones, not a big part of the offense, but made really big plays. Had a couple big assists to Durant, one of which cost us a win. But yeah, that was quite good to see. And yeah, I thought we saw. This is a big concern. I'm like under 1% Nurk for my best ball stuff, and we saw why, man. Like they're gonna want to play close game. They're gonna want to close games small. I think a ton. They were willing to close. They didn't like the regulars. There were parts when they would go small, even with Zoo out there, and Zoo kind of punished him a bit. But yeah, I'm pretty. If I'm a Nurk stan, which I'm like the opposite of, I have like. Anyways, I think that's legit. And the other thing is like we had all this concern about Bud cutting minutes down. Yes, it was overtime, but 44 minutes from Durant. Booker would have been up there if he didn't foul out. Beal gets 38 in overtime. Tyus Jones played 35, played pretty well, did close. We were a little bit worried if he wasn't going to close. But yeah, and then as I mentioned, also Iguodala gave him like pretty good minutes. Guarding Harden on an island, he was really fun. I thought Monte Morris gave him good minutes. This team's deeper than we thought. I think it's going to go a really, really long way, especially when the injury bug strikes. Anybody else you want to hit on the Suns really fast?
Yeah, I think you hitting on that depth is what's really important here too. Because another thing from last season too is remembering that Wolves series, they were just throwing out guys. I mean, Vogel was just searching for anything to give them solid minutes. And in this game, yeah, this felt like they had a lot of good options to go to whenever they wanted. And I'll just say on that Nurk point too, the fact that we saw Iguodala that much this early, um, I don't want to say concerning, but it makes you raise an eyebrow too. And like you're saying, they bring in the
Mm-hmm.
Royce and they play him at center minutes. So there's a lot of ways for Nurk to get cut down. And we saw it
Mm-hmm.
early. So we'll see. But yeah, the depth thing I think is another huge thing for them, that they actually do have options now as opposed to
Yeah.
last season where they're just searching for anything.
I will say Ryan Dunn didn't have a good game. He kind of forced some shots. One of those classic, like, buddy, you've got Kevin Durant in your team, you've got Devin Booker, you got Bradley Beal. Like you don't need to be doing that. So as much as we love Ryan Dunn, but yeah, like I said, Oso Ighodaro playing minutes last night was probably the
Yeah.
biggest. We had zero. I was like, actually, I took minute. Our minutes team had minutes on Ighodaro, and I was like, no, he's not playing. So that was, sicko surprises. Well, I could do a whole podcast on like I saw like random assistant coaches like, oh, he's over there now. Anyways, okay. Next thing that we learned here, the Charlotte Hornets, are they going to be okay? Are they going to be able to climb into the play-in? Because they played awesome. I think Charles Lee, massive props to how he handled both offensively and defensively. Their defense was really good down the stretch. 45 points in the second half from the Rockets. And they took a lot of like the Boston components, really funneling in dribble jumpers. The Partly because of who they played, it's Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green. Jalen Green, 14 dribble jumpers, 0.79 points per possession. They really funneled bad shots to the Rockets, which is I think why they lost. I'm curious to see if Jalen Green gets cut down the line. We didn't learn that. We know Jalen Green's vulnerable to getting cut, but we got to start with LaMelo Ball. I mean, he goes off 34, 8, and 11. Played really, really well. 4 threes, got to the line 10 times. That was really big. I thought he played pretty good defense as well. And Lee talked about that after the game, saying, LaMelo being able to be any kind of defender will go a long way as it trickles down to the team. They did lose Brandon Miller for a sore hip, hopefully a day-to-day thing there. So he was great. Miles Bridges, didn't do too much, especially with Miller going down. That was because perhaps another out of nowhere guy who crushed in the preseason. He was first in preseason efficiency for a bit. That's Trey Mann. Goes off in 29 minutes, closes the game, scores 24. Very efficient, very good shot quality overall. Took a couple like contested Jalen Greeny kind of shots, but he was fantastic. I thought Grant gave pretty good defense on Alfred Şengün. Şengün went ham, but challenged him enough, slowed him down enough there. So yeah, Trey Mann, like we talked about, Misi being a pickup. Trey Mann's pretty legit. I think we'll talk about Dyson Daniels in a second. He's not low key at all. But anything else? I guess the first question is: do you think I think you're the Hornets bull. I think you feel the best about the Hornets being in the plan. Are you feeling vindicated?
I mean, it's less of being a Hornets bull. It's more like a bear on every other team at the
Yeah.
bottom of the East we talk about. But I mean, no, just really, really nice opening night win. They were down like 15 at half. I think halftime was when Brandon Miller gets ruled out. It just kind of vibes are bad. And yeah, you said it. I mean, second half, just come out blazing. Trey Mann, shout out to him. Awesome. LaMelo. I mean, please stay healthy, LaMelo. We want to see these performances like this. So yeah, I mean, you got to be super encouraged. It's unfortunate from the health perspective. We talked about Brandon Miller leaving early, and already sounds like Mark Williams, no timetable, which unfortunate to him. But man, what a really encouraging win. And just Trey Mann. I mean, these back end OKC guys, I always have a soft spot for. I'm like, they're just so good. I'm like, maybe there is something here with these back end guys, and got to see a little bit with Trey Mann. So really encouraging win for them, and we'll see how they can build off of this going forward.
Yeah, Cody Barton too, and another guy who I really like is an on-ball defender. He's been one of the best Trae Young defenders in the NBA when he's healthy. I thought that was a big component to their defense as well with the ball pressure that he had. I think Cody's really good, and Caleb's really good too. So shout out to the Martin Bros there. All right, what's next on our list that we learned?
Next on the list, and you talked about a little bit when talking about AD, it was just the Wolves and just how unimpressive they are, right? I mean, just like I don't know what the right word was, but you're just watching them and just such uninspiring basketball, right? And it felt like Ant was the only way to get anything of sort of like offensive flow going at all. And they pushed them to 41 minutes in the first game of the season, and to still lose like that against the Lakers, really discouraging. I thought Conley showed his age a little bit, and then they went with Ingles as the ninth man over Minot and Rob Dillingham, and Ingles was just the same kind of mess. So we'll see what the Wolves can fix from that. But yeah, it certainly was an encouraging start post trade, and I'd expect some change just because, like, I mean, you can't come out and play like that, just so lifeless and just uninspiring. So we'll see what they can do. But yeah, you touched on a little bit, and just really want to emphasize that point of we'll see what the Wolves can adjust from here.
Yeah, a couple things. McDaniel's getting in foul trouble really hurt them. Like on top of the fact that like you're taking away cat size, and like you're taking away like Randall's not as big as Cat is, obviously, but like McDaniel's is just as big. Like McDaniel's is huge, and the way they want to play, the way he pressures the ball, and the way he could I think he could, and this is a big talking point for them, like the way he could actually add to their offense could really help them. So I think that really hurt them. Conley played poorly. I don't really think there's a takeaway there. Like he just had a bad game. Everyone has bad games. Ant kind of rushed some shots. The 3-point volume was there. I mentioned this in the content going into the season that I believe he was first in 3 points per 36 or something. He had a high 3-point rate that held up. And as you mentioned, they were going 8 up until McDaniels gets into foul trouble. And then after the game, Chris Finch says that, like, oh, yeah, we wanted to play 9, and it's Ingles' spot to lose. So I don't think that they did enough to kind of lose his spot. So that'll be the 9-man they go there overall. But, yeah, just a nasty game, man. I think they're going to be I was like, okay, they've got enough depth where they're not going to be as bad as I think. I don't know, man. Like, maybe it was just one game. Maybe they just weren't ready for it. It is some growing pains. Like you're installing these 2 new players, and they run very complicated defensive schemes, so it could be tough there. But on the positive side, Nikhil was awesome, man. Like Nikhil just absolutely snuffed out D'Lo. So shout out to him. Dante had a rough game overall, but he'll be back. Anything else? Well, I think we hit pretty much everyone. Gobert.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just you can true to the trade. I could bring in these 2 new guys and all. It's just would like to see something a little more encouraging. It wasn't necessarily just a loss. It was just kind of just the feeling of watching them and just having no confidence. But yeah, and they can't have these 40 plus minute games this early. It's just I mean, he's great. He's going to play a ton, but you can't have this early.
Yeah. For sure. And the last thing that I learned, which is something I didn't learn, and I've been doing this since before I met you for sure, since before I worked at ETR for sure. Like, take last round Quinn Snyder players in your fantasy draft. Like, they're such good bets. Going back to Donovan Mitchell, even before that, I would just always bet on this team. They're such a fantasy gold mine. And man, I had Onyeka Okongwu laughably high in my top 150. And I kept moving him down, moving him down. I still way above market. But my God, he goes off for 28 points, career high, 3 blocks, 11 to 12 from the field, makes all 6 free throws, with 4 offensive rebounds. Yes, he absolutely like took over this matchup. The Nets were not ready. They were, fouling like crazy, super sloppy basketball. We were just gonna be jamming players against the Nets. But Okong was legit. Quotes after the game from Quinn Snyder saying like, "Oh, we needed to get him out to sub him because he was tired," and he was. You could see. And they were like, "Hey, let's take him out because we know we're gonna close with him." They knew that like Quinn, like I would guess, like, he knew midway through the third that like, okay, Okongwu's got it going. We're closing with him. Considering how Capella's been like such a stable force for them, like that speaks volumes to me. We spent man versus machine. Does the man get the win already against the machine for Okongwu, your guy? And then also, man, like we talked. I mean, this Jason Daniels was such an easy click. Like we know the defensive stats are going to be there. And then the thing that opened him up a lot was Kobe Buffkin going down in the preseason to give him some more handling. Finishes with a 15.5 steal, 5 board, 2 dime guy. Just massive pace, 35 minutes. That won't be normal. As Bogdan didn't really have it going in this game to boost him up a little bit more. But yeah, he was great. Ricochet, rough game, but I'm not worried about that. So, any thoughts on the two, last round darlings in Onyeka Okongwu and Dyson Daniels?
Oh, I mean, we could have just spent this entire podcast talking about this Onyeka Okongwu before. I mean, we have just been talking so positive. I mean, this entire offseason. Although I will say, in fairness, is when he just wasn't coming back like any preseason
Yeah.
games, and what I'm going, man, do we need to take his games or whatever? But no, it comes out 28 minutes, complete smash. And one of the questions we had early on in the offseason is just, is this the year finally Okongwu is going to start when Capella is playing too? And look, Okongwu's hurt. Like this game wasn't going to be the game, but you'd have to think pretty soon. We could see it. So
Yeah.
really encouraging from Onyeka Okongwu. I can't wait to see how he builds off of this. And yeah, as far as Dyson Daniels goes, but yeah, we were really excited for it. Thought the fit next to Trey could be really strong and really encouraging first performance from him. And one of the questions from offensive perspective is he just never really showed much of a usage ceiling in New Orleans, but we kind of theorized, I think that was more maybe who he was playing with rather than him himself. So yeah, great to see a nice offensive role for him too. So you're saying the Hawks have been a team we generally like to bet on from a fantasy perspective, and the early returns are nice there. But especially shout out to my guy Onyeka Okongwu. Can't wait to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, and should mention Trae Young really quick. You see the 12 dimes. He was shortchanged here. He had 21 potential assists, almost 9 minutes of touch time. We talked about this, man. The role is going to be so good. The pace is going to be so fast. I think this was the 3rd highest pace game in the NBA. Should note, again, the Nets pressure the ball a lot. Man, there are going to be a lot of big dime games against the Nets for me. So yeah, something kind of, in the weeds. I'll be talking about that a lot in matchups there. So yeah, excited about the Hawks. All right, the last thing we did learn from you is what?
So yeah, last thing we learned that we kind of knew, but I think just thought about it while I was watching is I think the bottom of this league is going to be really bad, especially in a year where there's a lot of prospect these teams want, a lot of teams at the bottom already with protected picks. Yeah, I think just as the Warriors Blazers game kept going on, I'm thinking about the Blazers like, wow, we're going to see a lot of games like this in the West where they're just getting beat down. The Bulls, I know you gave out their under on our win totals pod. They're bringing in THT first half for rotation minutes, and it's just like, what are we doing? Yeah, nothing. Again, look, shout out to the Nets. They hung around a bit in that Hawks game. Even Pistons hang around a little bit, but man,
they played great.
Some months from now, we're going to be looking at some of these rosters with minutes and being going like, ooh, this is quite ugly. So yeah, the Raptors too, another one where they were just already deal with injuries. So yeah, just we talked about this a lot. Just I think the tankathon is going to be really something this year, but some confirmation on that in this first day of games.
Yeah, IQ going down was like insta snap live bet with the Cavs. So I was like, oh my god, because we were giving minutes to Mogbo, we were giving like 23 minutes to Davion Mitchell, Jamal Sheed, like, and if man, and they're gonna be careful with the IQ, like, oh my god,
I mean,
I'm
already those
I don't know
names
what the
are
spread
those
is
are
there.
names we read off in like, at the end of the season, not now. We're already talking about like, who are these guys that we're gonna give minutes to, and it's just yeah, this is gonna set up for some really ugly rotations just as the
Yeah.
season goes on.
Ulrich Kamchi getting a shout out from Darko after the game. Jameson Battle was in before the game wasn't even over. Like this is who he played. Like if you know who he played for, like Charles Barkley's brain would explode hearing some of these names.
This is
But
game
yeah,
one. Like it's game one. This is not
yeah,
supposed to happen. This, but yeah, there it is.
for sure. I got to see if there's a did you watch? I go straight to bed now because like games are over. I go straight. I don't even watch. I just go straight to bed. So I have to record TNT if they do who you play for. It's my favorite bit of the year. Okay, let's talk about some things that we didn't learn, aka the confirmation bias, aka yes, we're victory lapping after one game. We're just gonna do this. I'm gonna say three at a time and just throw it back to you. You could talk about all three or whatever.
For sure.
So the things we didn't learn: Boston is freaking good. Like we knew this, and I feel very strongly they're number one. They're gonna smoke some teams. They're probably gonna blow out the Wizards tonight. They're gonna be awesome. Number two, that we didn't learn: the Cavs are gonna feed Evan Mobley. I was tearing up hearing Kenny Atkinson saying the guards have the responsibility to get Evan Mobley the ball to make sure the offense is funneling through him. Smashed, big field goal volume, all that pace. We talked about it all throughout the preseason. I literally thought of a podcast idea because I want to talk about Kenny Atkinson's impact on this team. Didn't learn anything. They're going to smash. Yes, the Raptors are bad. Find the Cavs. I'm Mr. Cavs. Hashtag our Cavs. We've got our magic. I'm a big Cavs guy this year. And then the last thing we learned or didn't learn, Walker Kessler's a smash, man. I've had it. The blocks are going to be there. The minutes are really strong. His post defense was great. Zach Edey had one post up possession. Talked about it being a big fade last night on the content as well. They're going to give up a ton of threes, but Walker smash, Mobley smash, Cavs smash, Boston smash. Which smash do you feel the best about?
It pains me to say it, but I think it's probably just Boston just being a juggernaut again, right? I mean, like opening night, Knicks, who I think most consider maybe their biggest competitor in the East right now, and just I mean, you could not have had a big just a more impressive win than that one. Miraculously, somehow did not set the 3-point record in that game.
Oh my
I
god,
think that was the only interesting thing. I couldn't even think how many threes they were just missing consecutively. It was almost like Pritchard must have missed 10 by himself just in that fourth quarter. I felt like, and how I mean, just yeah. But look, like you said, I think anyone it was kind of a sexy pick to say, oh, I don't know if Boston will win East and everything and all that, but it seems pretty clear without Porzingis smash. And then yeah, Cavs, some confirmation bias there, right? Where it's just you've been emphasizing, especially this Mobley point from an offensive standpoint, how much he can grow. And wow, it's like even more than I think you were pounding the table for with some of the Kenny quotes you're saying after the game about we got to get him more. So really encouraging to see. And then yeah, Walker Kessler, another big that we were really high on the offseason. We'd been following his starting lineup role for a while. We got just more and more confirmation as it went on. And I mean, what an awesome first game from him. So hopefully he can keep it going and we'll see what the Jazz can do. But yeah, really encouraging start for Walker Kessler.
Yeah, I should mention Keontae George got hounded by Scottie Pippen Jr. in those minutes. That Grizzlies had 19 press possessions. They just put Keontae in bad spot. We'll see if he can adjust there. My guy Keontae off to a slow start. Other things we didn't learn. The Orlando defense is really, really, really good. Man, they put clamps on everyone. And then interestingly enough, one thing we did learn was their 3-point volume. They led the NBA on Wednesday for catch and shoot volume. That's something they didn't do. They had more 3-pointers last night than they had in any game last year. Yes, they played Miami. We know Miami's a 3-point funnel. So it's something to watch. But yeah, Orlando's defense is really, really good. Indiana's defense is bad. So we didn't learn that. We knew that going into it. That was something we were watching in the preseason there. And then most of the stuff we talked about already. So anything else that you want to mention or anything else you didn't learn? Anything you want to add on Orlando?
Yeah, just I mean, this is Drew gave the over out on the team win pod. Everyone just as a thing as ETR as a whole is really high on them. And yeah, it's that defense we said especially for regular season where it travels and they're so deep. Size everywhere. That Isaac injury put, I think, a little damper on just the all go Orlando everything, but still, I mean, super encouraging. And just the big question we have for them is, can we get any offense? You mentioned the threes. If they could be even average offense, I mean, you'd be really excited to see what they could do besides. But I mean, regular
Mhm.
season wise, this defense is just going to be too much for a lot of teams, and they're set up really strongly. So really excited for them. And I know we've been talking a lot about the win totals and all, but for the division bets too, nice to get a win
Yeah.
against Miami to start. So really exciting for Orlando, and then yeah, opposite for Indiana, right? This is what they do. This is what they've been, and it's just going to be more of the same for them. So look against
Yeah.
Detroit, it was fine. They were playing fast, they were scoring, and that's just going to be the theme of the Pacers. So
Yeah.
we'll get it once again, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, should gonna end on a pretty gross note. But Detroit, their rim defense was pretty good. They kept the Pacers to 25 rim possessions. Pacers were first rim possessions last year with all that pace. Shout out Bickerstaff, man. We talked about the
Mhm.
teams being bad. I think, and that was Rick Carlisle. He had like three off the cuff, non solicited answers about the Pistons playing, and they were great. They almost had it. I think that the Pacers were +9 in the clutch. Like they played really well down the stretch. Ben Mathurin played awesome. There was some foul trouble to Aaron Nesmith, so wouldn't quite buy that. But that was a shout to the Pistons. Didn't think I'd be ending on that. Anything else that you got in the hopper that you want to shout out before we get out of here?
No, nothing left of the hopper. Just really nice to be back on and just talking about the games, right? We're in the off
Yeah,
season. We're talking about projections and stuff going forward, but really great to see some basketball again and just look forward to keep seeing. I know there's a few teams we haven't seen, some really exciting teams. I
yep.
mean, we got Wemby still, OKC, that. So yeah, lots to be excited for. Great to have basketball back.
Yeah, man, a lot of fun teams: Dallas, Denver, Sacramento,
Mhm.
San Antonio, OKC, and then most importantly, the Washington Wizards. We get to see Bub Carrington out there. Not my guy, surprisingly. I thought he'd be my guy for sure. All right, so that's it. We did the promo stuff at the top, but we're doing it again because we work, as Levitan says, like we take this so freaking seriously. We roll out of bed, we look at projections. I go through every single coach quote from every single presser that I could get, all to make sure that we give you guys the best projections, the best content there is in the business. Our props are, again, you see these prop bets, are like, oh yeah, we're not doing bets where we're walking around town or whatever. We're grinding. We're checking every single piece of information to make sure we're giving you the best projections we can. Check out our props, $59.99, and then our DFS package on the subscribe tab. Yeah, you're getting all my content. You're getting the DFS show. Dinks won like what 30 like $300,000 in the last week. The guy is just the best at DFS. So yeah, we've got the best team. We feel good about that. So check us out. If you're one of the people who are on the fence, you'll be happy you did. So again, appreciate you guys listening. Enjoy the season. We're happy with back. And we'll catch you guys next.